But I do remember this feeling of sort of scarcity around money, like this, like a fear around it. I know a lot of people, or you see a lot of celebrities who have tons of money and they still don't have the lives that they want. Women have to be pretty creative about how they want to create those networking opportunities and experiences.
Hi, wealth builders. Welcome to Invest with Prudence. I'm your host, Prudence Zhu. Today we have a very special guest, Yann Dang. Yann was born in Utah. She is a founding member of Chief, a networking platform for women executives. She's also a mother to a baby girl. After a successful international career in corporate finance, she started her own executive coaching company. Should we just dive in? So usually I'd like to learn the childhood stories of my guests. Can you tell us a little bit about your first memory of money?
My background is I'm Vietnamese Chinese, and my first memories of money, I think I have two. One of them was getting those red envelopes for Chinese New Year and being really excited about the money inside of them. I don't even know if I was like, didn't know what the money was. I just knew that the red envelopes were very special, and it's like lucky money. And so I have a lot of really warm memories of like Chinese New Year, having like a stack of envelopes. And then I also remember like we used to gamble in our household like just for fun around New Year's, and we'd play like 21. And I just remember like it was just like dimes and nickels. Like we didn't really play with a lot of money, but I just remember like the stack of like dimes and nickels and like how I would play with that.
That's awesome. It's a very physical memory of money. So when you were growing up, did your parents teach you anything about saving or investing?
No, not really. I didn't. I mean, I think I knew the value of money because my mom would talk about how expensive some things were. Like I remember I had a dress, and I don't remember how much it cost, but I know like she had brothers and sisters, and they're all refugees of the Vietnam War, so we didn't have a lot of money coming to the States. And I remember one of my aunts asking her about a dress that she had bought me, which I think she commented on was expensive. So I think I started in my mind just kind of understanding that there was a resource called money, and that sometimes it would feel scarce because things were expensive. Um, and like when I think back to it, I don't remember like feeling rich or poor. I just remember like there was a thought about money. My parents never said like this is money, this is what it is. I knew that there was some value to it, and that in some ways that there was like a scarcity around it depending on when we were talked about material items.
Mm-hmm. That's actually very interesting. So basically, you had to learn about investing and saving and budgeting by yourself then.
Yeah, I did. I just remember it being like the scarcity. Sometimes my mom would talk about money, but it was weird because I never had those experiences that some people have where, the electricity stops, or that they don't have water or utilities, or like we didn't have food. I'm sure we started off with food stamps, just being an immigrant family. But I don't remember like actually having any needs that weren't being met. But I do remember this feeling of sort of scarcity around money, like this, like a fear around it, if there's going to be enough. And when I was about 9, we moved from Utah to Chicago, and my dad was doing a family business in Chinese herbal medicine. So he kind of came from an entrepreneur background as well, and helped his dad establish like a mail order herbal medicine business. And that was pretty like a big move for our family. My mom had a secure job, and then she kind of moved to a place where she didn't, and she started working for the family business. But I just remember feeling like, okay, money is like a thing, right? We bought a house in Chicago, we moved, and I don't remember like ever having a conversation about it. It was just this underlying feeling that money, like you needed it, it was important.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So basically, if you had any like life dreams, then did you have the sense of, I have to provide for myself?
Yeah, I mean, I think coming from an Asian background too, it's like not only providing for yourself, but for your family. And I think at a very young age, in some ways, like that strive of like wanting to help my family really put a lot of pressure on myself to like do different jobs, to do different things, to take care of myself and others. Actually, my first job was babysitting. And I remember I was babysitting my mom's friends' kids. And like, I had gotten so much money just babysitting. There were three kids, so it was quite a lot, you know. But I just remember like that first time of having a lot of money, and I remember my dad telling me that I should share with my brothers, who I had three older brothers. And I think in my mind I was like, why do I have to share with them? Like that's weird. They didn't do this, but it was like sort of the first time that I had multiple $100 that I was like, oh, I wonder what I'm going to do with this. But I did have a strong pull to help my family members, to help my mom, to make sure that, people in my family were being cared for. Not that I was like contributing a huge amount, but I think that's been a big part of my money story, that cultural piece of like, giving back to your family and helping your family.
Hmm. Hmm. Did they impact your career choice or career planning?
Yeah, I think for sure. I remember my dad saying like you should go into finance, and I just was like, no, I'm going to go into science or something like that. But it was interesting. My first real internship in high school was with Bank of America, and it was in the municipal bonds group, and I worked for this woman, and I learned a lot. And so that was sort of my first pathway into it, and then I had other sort of corporate roles. After that. Like I worked at W. Granger for a summer. I worked at Anheuser-Busch. So I had a lot of like different experiences with corporations. And of course, in corporation, money, makes a difference. And so I think I came out of it, probably picked it from a stability, security perspective. Also going to U of I, like accounting was one of the biggest majors. And so it kind of made sense to do that. But at the same time, I enjoyed the process of making decisions and having data to make those decisions.
Oh, that's awesome. I feel like even today, like not a lot of women are in the finance industry, and I'm definitely happy to see more that's presented in this industry. So,
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. In the US, there's not as many. I think it's growing. But actually in Singapore, when I worked abroad in Singapore for a couple of years, there's a lot of women in finance, and actually just a lot of women working in general, partly because I think that there's like a lot of childcare help that helps people just to be able to stay in their careers longer. But yeah, I had that. I mean, I've worked with, I have three older brothers, and so I've worked like I've been with a lot of men where I'm the only woman, and it was sort of the same when I was in corporate America as well.
wow. So tell me a little bit about, how did you succeed and get promotions along the way, like in a male-dominated uh, industry or function?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me it was, different when I was like I started at PwC, was in auditing, got to understand numbers, financial statements, how all of that stuff worked, but also was sort of bored with it. It's like you process the numbers, it's sort of interesting, but I was always really curious about what do these numbers do? What choices can you make with them? How does this help drive the business? And so my first job at LexisNexis, I actually joined the corporate headquarters in New York. And I was really fortunate enough to be able to see the financials of the whole globe. Basically, I was in charge of consolidation. So I got to see Asia, and I got to see the US and international, like the European group, how those numbers were impacted by different things that were happening at the time. And at the time when I was working, it was sort of this move from print to online to workflow. And you got to see in the US, they were really more far advanced. In the UK, they were still having lots of books. And then, of course, in a lot of parts of Asia, books were still a really big thing. So you had to figure out how to manage that progression, because with the book product, there was actually higher margin. You didn't have to invest as much as an online product. So it's just really interesting to see those dynamics. And I think part of my success has always been to see what that bigger world dynamic is and to understand relationships. I think also being a first generation immigrant, you're always trying to understand the system you're in. You're trying to adapt to the system, assimilate, make sure your parents know what they're doing, make sure you're understanding the world. And so having that sort of in my mind or built in as like sort of my way of being helped me in a corporate setting, because I was like, okay, who makes the decisions? Okay, the global CFO and the global CEO make the decisions. How do those decisions get made? What's important? And so the more I could understand that dynamic in a system, the more I could, be helpful or impactful to make things, make people have better insights, better data to make choices, to see where money was going. These are the investments we're making this year. Does that make sense for the level of revenue that we're bringing in? And having that sort of clarity around how we're looking at our numbers and like the forecasting helps leaders make decisions.
Definitely. Yeah. So I think the financial perspective is definitely a must-have for when you go to like a leadership role, and also the alignment aspect is super important as well, because essentially when you get higher up in the corporate world, that's more important in getting the result you want. So congratulations on like realizing and experiencing that like early on in your career. Um, so at some, I don't know which one is first. Did you start your family first, or did you start your own business first?
It kind of happened at the same time, and I guess it depends how you look at it. Because I was sort of on maternity leave while I was, still doing my coaching, and my desire to start my coaching business was always there. And I sort of had these timelines for myself around it. So it kind of happened at the same time. I had my baby in July. I finished getting accredited in my coaching in August, all the while still seeing clients, and then I officially launched, towards the end of the year. So it kind of all kind of happened together, where things got more solidified for me. And part of my choice in doing that was to have more flexibility. My role before as a VP of finance was a lot of traveling. It was a lot of late nights. It was a lot of timelines that, I can only impact so much because things needed to get done. And for me, being a mom, like I wanted to be present, and I wanted to also, have the ability to have more flexibility, but also do something that I really loved and desired, and wanted to help people with the skills that I had.
Hmm. And did the timeline have any like financial calculation behind it? For example, did you save to a certain like degree, and where you feel comfortable to do something that's not immediately like matching your pay?
Yeah, for sure. A lot of things came up for me. I actually lived in Chicago for a long time, and then during the pandemic, a lot of things changed for me. I got married. We decided to move to Florida. My husband had a role here. I was still working remotely, and a lot of the choices around that, I was always like sort of focusing on financial security, knowing that at some point it doesn't make a big difference. And I continue to do work on my money mindset as well. As I make investments in my business, as I get new clients, I'm thinking about, abundance and attracting money, and making sure that money is, helps me have choices, not like holds me back or leads me to being greedy or leads me in places that I don't want to go. For me, I really feel like money gives you freedom to do the things that you want, as long as you keep that in check in your mindset. Because I don't know, I know a lot of people, or you see a lot of celebrities who have tons of money and they still don't have the lives that they want. So for me, I'm very sort of grounded in that money isn't everything, but when you don't have it, it is very painful, and it doesn't allow you to have some of the choices that you might want. And so for me, getting married, moving to Florida, figuring out what I wanted to do, definitely the security of having dual income helped. That helped me with like thinking through it. Also having savings helped, and also thinking about like what did I really believe that I could bring in, and what do I believe that I could create. So there was a piece of that mental thinking about how do I back myself up in all of this and, be able to bet on myself.
That's awesome. I feel like your experience in the corporate world definitely clarified your vision for what you want to do, or like what you are really passionate about and can bring value. So that's amazing.
Yeah, I think for sure it helped me get clear with myself, right? How many clients do I want? What is my package going to be? How will I feel about this? And it's kind of like when I was forecasting too. It's like, let's put all the numbers together. How do we feel about this? Is this going to be a good plan for us if things don't go the way we want them to? What are the different scenarios that want to play out, and do you feel comfortable with those scenarios?
I think when we were talking, you mentioned that you coach your clients on understanding the security and their money beliefs. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, I have a few clients that are entrepreneurs. I have a few clients that, are just professionals as well. And it varies, right? Like there for the entrepreneurs, there is a security and a deliberateness about knowing your numbers and understanding the flows of being in and out and the ability to understand how do you create more money and not only create it, but are able to save it and to create the financial picture you want. And oftentimes, people don't have clarity around it, or they have these thoughts about themselves and numbers like, I'm not good at numbers, or I just don't know, or this is too hard. And, it's the same thing in the corporate world, right? Sometimes I would work with marketing leaders or technology leaders that, this might have been their first leadership role, and they needed sort of the 101 of these are just numbers. There's nothing like we're all learning in this process, right? Like you're putting your assumptions down and you're getting more clarity and using numbers not against you but for you to create security, to create understanding, to create the decisions that you want to make. So that was from an entrepreneur standpoint. From some of the other people that I coach from a life coaching perspective, there's always this idea, and I relate. I've had it too, right? It's like I need X number of dollars in my account to like be able to do X, Y, and Z, or to have some sort of freedom or somehow sort of security. And so there's just like it's just a thought. It's actually not true security. True security really can come from ourselves and our beliefs about ourselves, and how we, our relationship with the world. Obviously you want to get your needs met, but beyond that, I've met people where they're like, oh, the stock market did so bad. I have to like not do these things that I want to do. And then I have to remind them that like everybody is experiencing the stock market being down, right? This is a moment in time. Is it really worth it to delay the thing that you want to do? Or even look at the data around it. It's like, oh, I had this big tax bill, but then they're like, oh, it's only like less than 1% of like my savings. So there's a way that our brains can sometimes magnify things or magnify money issues and get us to like delay or stop or freeze from taking deliberate decision. So I help my clients to see it clearly, like what is it really, what does it mean to you, why are you holding yourself back, is this like, does this make sense to you when you look at the grand scheme of things?
I love that. A lot of times, we as a financial planner, we do the same thing, like help clients understand emotion from their end goal. Because a lot of times things are just temporary. And if you keep your eye on the end goal over the long term, it doesn't really, the market being down is kind of predicted, like it's foreseeable. And we calculated that into the model, and it's not going to impact their achieving their goals. So definitely that brings a lot more security in, and also less anxiety to the clients. I love that. What do you like most about being an executive coach?
That's a great question. What I like most is helping people to see their brains and giving them like helping them see the choices that they have. I think oftentimes when we're alone with our own thoughts or our beliefs and they're very narrow in thinking, it can sometimes feel a little hopeless. It could kind of feel like I'm not really sure what to do. But by being able to talk to somebody and share with them and reflect back to them the way that they're thinking, and for them to make the conscious choice and decision to choose to do something different, to choose to make a big change in their life, choose to go tell their boss the truth about something that they didn't like, truth about, looking at their financials and actually, making some hard decisions about reducing things, if that makes sense. So I really love empowering my clients to do the thing that they, want to do, but are having a hard time seeing through. And it's great when they come and they say, I've done this thing. I have a client, she paid off $130,000 of debt this year. And she was just like, I'm so proud of myself. I did this. I got in control of my numbers and I did this. And I'm like, yeah, you did this. It was all your mindset. Because oftentimes, there's so many distractions in the world, right? You can get so distracted, especially when you're an entrepreneur. There's so many, like marketing, there's so many choices and decisions. And I think me helping my client go back to what they say are important and help them to continue to commit to what they're saying is the most important and following through, that's the thing I love the most.
Wow, that's amazing. I share the same sentiment. It's like when I see my clients progressing, that's the most fulfilling to me. It's not necessarily about how much money I make, how fast I'm growing, but it's more like what impact you have on each individual, and I love that. So what on the flip side, what's been the most challenging in your entrepreneurship journey?
Yeah, I think the challenging part is that there's so many different, I think, like I was saying, that like there's so many different ways to do things, and there's so many different decisions that you can choose to make. And it's also difficult to say no to things. I still get recruited for finance jobs, for CFO jobs. And so, while I really enjoyed being part of a leadership team, and, there's a part of me that really enjoyed that corporate space, and it's not to say that I won't be able to go back to that, but also to say no and commit to what I have planned for myself now and to remind myself the reasons why I'm doing the things. So I guess it's two things: saying no to things that you're still interested in, but to commit to your goal. And then the second thing is to really get out of some of the drama sometimes of like all of the things and to really focus on the things that matter. So just as I'm helping my clients focus on what matters, I do that for myself too. And sometimes it's easier than, other times when I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so many things. And there could be like a lot of competing priorities in the moment.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Do you feel the same way about your entrepreneurship?
Yes, I feel like constantly I've been overbooked, and then I have to make the decision what is the priority of what really needs to be done like right now, and what's the degree that I can achieve with the limited time. So that is like a constant. I don't know if it gets better. We'll see. So related to it, even in a leadership role at corporate or being an entrepreneur, people spend a lot of time networking. Do you have any tips on how to effectively do that?
Yeah, I think, like you said, like there is a lot of networking, but I think it's important to think about why, like what is the purpose of the networking? Because oftentimes, like if you get overbooked and you're like, I'm not even sure why I'm seeing this person or what I can get out of it, or not so much get out of it, but even that curiosity, like you just kind of get exhausted from networking. I think it's important, especially for women, and I coach women a lot on this because actually, one of the reasons why a lot of women are not on boards is because they don't have a network of experts and people that they can draw on. And so it's really important for women in particular, men as well, though, to build their networks constantly. But I always tell people a couple of things. One, go into it with curiosity and an open mind, because if you're curious and you're open, you're actually there. You're actually really present with people versus like trying to get something done or trying to get something out of it. You actually allow for things to be co-created in the moment with somebody. And then second is, thinking about like that next step, especially if it's like something that, you want to continue nurturing this relationship. Networking isn't one and done, right? You're constantly networking and you're constantly nurturing that network. And so, you know, that might be a follow up email, that might be a coffee chat in 2 or 3 weeks, or maybe a month. That might be sending a greeting card. So there's a lot of different ways to continue that relationship than just that one. Because, you know, even for me and my business, like it's just been amazing. I have people in my network from corporate who want to come coach with me, or who, you know, let other people in their lives know about me and they come coach with me. And so you just don't really know what's going to happen with your network. But I think, you know, the way I look at it is, if I can provide value to someone, and I can be curious and open and enjoy my time with someone, and if I can continue nurturing that relationship, then your network, I actually have a belief. My belief, and it actually relates to money, but I have this belief that my network is a gold mine. And I really believe that. Like, my network is, it continues to expand. I continue to invest in it. I continue to give value to it. And, you know, things come out of it. You know, it's not like this is going to happen, that. It's just kind of like a, you know, the more I contribute, the more people reach out to me, the more things come my way. And so that's my mindset around networking.
Yeah, I totally agree. It is give and take. You constantly build it, and it's not only a gold mine, it's also like a source of happiness to some
Yeah.
extent. Yeah. Here is something that I observed in the corporate world. So, for men, I think a lot of the networking happens on the golf course. But for women, a lot of people are not interested in the golf because I don't I don't appreciate being in the sun all day, and then like, you know, sports is not my thing. So what I found out is that actually there's more like higher percent in leadership role women are taking, you know, coaching, like executive coaching. So I feel like that's a supplement that's playing into women's advantage, like getting professional help and internally like reflect on what they want to achieve and how to personally grow.
Yeah, I think for sure that, because I think a lot of times people think, you know, is networking slimy, or like, am I trying to get something from somebody else? And sometimes at work, especially being a female, it doesn't feel so natural, right? We're not just like, oh, come like play golf with us. And so women have to be pretty creative about how they want to create those networking opportunities and experiences. Because it might not be like, I'm not gonna, like, I'm with you, I'm not gonna go on a golf course with people, right? I'm not gonna go do that. But maybe there is something else that I will engage with, or if we all have dinner together, I'm gonna go and do that, and I'm gonna meet people, or I'm gonna find some sort of connection and curiosity about a person, or how can we help each other with a project, those types of things. And I think you're right, like, you know, women are also more open to getting coaching and, you know, working with people. I work with a lot of female leaders that are in male dominated spaces. So I think for them also, it's like being seen and heard as a woman, and, you know, noticing those dynamics where it's like, oh, I wasn't invited to that or this. And then it's like, okay, well, what can you do? Can you ask to be invited? You know, what can you do that feels comfortable to you, but is taking a risk to help you build those things that are not as natural to build? You know, I remember getting invited to, like, I went to this like very fancy retreat in Florence, and I was super excited. Somebody on the you know, on the list, was, their name was Heather, and I was like, oh good, another female leader, I'm excited to like meet them. And then when I actually met them, it was like a man who was, he was a lovely man, but I just remember feeling like, oh, I'm like the only one. But at the same time, like, I always help people go back to purpose. Like, what is your purpose to be there, right? It's to contribute. Like, there's not going to be more women at the table if I, you know, don't really show up, you know, not to put the world on your sort of self, but to also see that, you know, what you're doing is bigger than what you think you're doing, right? You're the voice of the woman in the room, and you get to be that person. And it's not to say to put you in a box, but it's just to see the expansiveness of your being. So oftentimes I would be like, it does it serve me to not go to dinner with all these men just because, like, I feel like I don't belong? Well, I actually can choose to belong. I can go and I can connect with people on a human level. And, you know, I still notice the discomfort, but over time that discomfort goes away. I actually know these people. They're not just these men in my mind, you know?
Right. Like, after all, we are all human beings and we try to live meaningful and fulfilling lives. And I really admire you for being the the few, like the only female or women representation on those situations. Because not only that would change the topic or atmosphere or mindset of the entire conversation, but also, at presentations, you would inspire a lot of audience to think about things that they originally wouldn't think about.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Um, so, lastly, what would you teach your uh, what would you teach your daughter about career and life?
Yeah, I think part of it is I'm living it now, right? I want to do something that's meaningful, that I enjoy, right? But there's always things that you don't enjoy, but like that are meaningful and that, I'm going to work hard. And I want her to have those skills of like working hard for something that you enjoy doing and that you're continuing to grow by, contributing and providing value to the world, but with your unique skills and gifts. I think that's the amazing thing, right? We all have these unique skills and gifts, and I find it's like our duty to find out what that is and to express it and share it in the world, and make money while you do it, right? Because there's a value to that skill, but you have to value it first before other people value it. Because if you don't hone or you don't nurture those things that make you who you are, like if I didn't choose to like say that I love coaching and also know that I'm good at it and to invest in myself to do it, then you actually, I'm not giving a gift to the world that is inside of you. So for my daughter, I want her to definitely feel secure that she has the things that she needs, but also feel the sort of urgency and drive to go after things that she wants to create in the world and to leave her mark on the world.
When you said you have the entrepreneur clients, and actually they are more um, like they put more attention on their financials, which is counterintuitive because you think about entrepreneurs, they take a tremendous amount of risk by starting their own business, but actually they are more vigilant financially because they have to deal with it day in and day out. Yeah. Whereas,
Yeah,
mhm.
payroll issues, cash flow issues, employees. It's very different, right? In a corporate, I knew I had a cushion. I knew like what is going to happen. I'm not like I'm in charge of like pressing the button for payroll to be made, and maybe like, and I was fortunate enough. I was in a high growing industry where we didn't really need to lay off people. We actually just had to cut headcount. That was like new people being hired. So in that way, like I didn't feel the anxiety or pressure as like somebody who has their own own company, really worried about their staff, about paying them. So it's a different level of anxiety, a different level of duty, and I think it's important to really acknowledge that, what that is, and help people think through that and make those actions. Because at the end of the day, we there's things that we care about and we have our duty. So it is very different. And I'm an entrepreneur now. I don't have direct staff, but when I do, I'm sure that there's that next level of duty and, wanting to make, do things right by them, but also always managing your profits and making sure that you're secure. So you're taking care of, your business just as you would your family.
What do you think would impact your business? Like, will there be a higher demand or lower demand for like corporate, like executive coaching?
Yeah, I think there's actually a higher demand, particularly like there's a lot of different forces at play. There's a lot of things going on with DEI and wanting the face of leadership to change. I mean, a lot of my clients, I have a mix of clients, but I do have clients that, are like the only women in the leadership circle. They want support. They know that their company wants to take steps. I have some corporate clients where I'm helping them. What is your pathway? How do you create a pathway or pipeline for women here? So I think that those things are still going to be important to them. And actually, the coaching industry is kind of exploding. I mean, I'm sure you you notice it as yourself, as in that coaching way. And I think people are much more wanting to take responsibility and find people that can actually help them with the specific issue that they want. So I think the more coaches there are, the better it is for people. The more people are out there saying what they specifically do and who they are, the better it is for people to connect. I mean, I have clients that come to me and they're like, you're a woman, you've been in corporate, you're somebody I trust, right? So when you find a coach like that, that you already have this connection with, it just accelerates the growth and the potential for the person to, continue to go out there and take the risks that they want to. I'm sure money is always something that people think about, right? I talk to clients about money, but at the end of the day, it's not about the money. It's about the results that they want to create with the coaching. What is it that you want to create? Because when you invest in yourself, you have that forever. Nobody could take that away from you. I've invested years and money into my brain and how I process emotions and how I think about things. And that is money well spent. I mean, it's giving back to me every single day, whether I'm a mom, an entrepreneur, whether I'm having a big fight with my husband. Like, all of those skills allow me to be who I am. And when I sell to people coaching, right? Because I have to sell coaching, they come to me. It's the same discussion. Like, what is it that you want to achieve? And do you feel that this money is worth what you want to achieve? And a lot of times it's peace of mind. A lot of times it's, having a better relationship with their family or their friends, or having a better relationship with yourself. Like, a lot of it is, you can't put a value on it, but you have to take that step to say, I believe that this process is going to help me. So while money will always be something that people, it's going to be a hard decision, and it should be. I tell people all the time, if you're going to invest in coaching, you should take it seriously. You're committing to this. This is your hard-earned money, and you're going to have to do the work, and I'm going to help you, but I can't do it all for you. So yes, things are expensive, and you treat things that are expensive very well and with that commitment level. Does that make sense?
Yes, totally. I mean, investing in yourself is something that I tell my clients like constantly, because it is one investment that would supersede all others. So one last thing, like, how can me or my audience help?
Yeah. So, if you're interested in learning more about coaching, please follow me on LinkedIn. It's Yann, YANNDANG, Yann Dang. So you can find me on LinkedIn. I post pretty often. And also you can go to my website, which is Aspire, ASPIR coaching. .co. So, you can find me there if you'd like to book a consultation to work together. I love that. Yeah, they can find me through that. And I'm always up for coffee dates as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Prudence. Thanks so much for having me here.
Thank you. I hope Yan brought you some inspiration and insights to your life journey. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up and share it with others. We are also available on your favorite podcast platform under Invest with Prudence. Please subscribe to my channel if you want to learn more strategies to build your financial success and live the life you want. See you next time.